how do I get to be the smartest person in this room? The moment you start thinking about that, you're already in another you're already in another dimension. Hello and welcome to the second edition of Benrolins Blueprint. I'm your host Benrolins. I want them.
And I'm your co-host, Dwayne Fur.
Yeah, Dwayne, how you doing today, man?
All right, and yourself?
Oh, today before we start today's episodes, I want to take an opportunity to thank the audience. I want to really thank you and appreciate you for everything you do. Thank you for those who watch our YouTube video. Thank for those who listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and so on and so forth. And for those of you who like the video, subscribe, shared, or supported the channel or the podcast in one way or the other, we just want to give you a big shout out and thank you very much. Keep on the good work and just continue to support the community as we grow together. Thank you very much. So today we're going to be talking about something which I really consider valuable and important, and that is value. So how do we add value in our society? How do we add value in our personal life? How do we add value in a company where we work for? So Dwayne, when you think about value, what do you really think about, man?
So when I think about value, it depends on what you mean. Like, you mean like self-value?
Yeah, self-value.
Just where you, it's literally just that, where you value yourself, your own self-worth. Case in point, no one's going to like support or believe in your dream if you don't support and believe in yourself, right? So you got to be like your own biggest fan. So I think like value is just, it starts within.
Mm-hmm.
And if that self-value is like genuine and real, then other people will see that, you know what I mean, like that it's actually a genuine and legit thing, and they'll buy into whatever your aim is, I should say.
Yeah, got you. For me, when I think about value, I always think about how do you increase the worth of something?
Mm-hmm.
How do you increase your personal worth? And if you're working for a company, how do you increase the worth of the company? So when I always think about value, I always think about how do I add the worth of whatsoever I find myself in at the moment. Be it relationship, be it career-wise, like how do I increase? Because when you come somewhere, let's just say assume a company, when you come into a company, there's some certain standards that you have to uphold or live by. So when you come as an individual, you also got to think about like, hey, there are challenges in this place as well. So as an individual, how do I add value? How do I increase the worth of this thing to another level? And if you're working with people, how do I increase my worth? And how do I increase their worth? It's very important. And I want to ask you about value in the company. Have you done something really valuable in your company that you think is really worth it?
Me personally, no. But what I think, what I value in working for a company and being a manager are the people under me, right? The company doesn't run without the people that's under you and things like that. So if I bring anything to the table of self-value, is that I'm able to connect with people on every level, whether it's someone that's my peer, direct peer, whether it's someone that's my subordinate, or whether it's someone that's higher than me. I'm able to make a genuine connection with each level of membership and leadership and stuff like that. So I think that's what value I bring to the company. Because people will say, oh, that's an easy thing, but it's not. Connecting with people is not an easy thing, especially when everyone has their own personalities, everyone has their own beliefs, and you got to get them to buy into this one company's vision. It doesn't matter what you believe in. It doesn't matter what I personally believe in. You got to make sure everyone's on the same page and trying to get the same goal for the company done. And that's not an easy thing. So I think that's something that I do well, being able to connect with people.
So do you think if someone want to have add value in any circumstance, the person has to have like self-discipline. Do you think you have to have a certain level of self-discipline to be able to add value in a situation or circumstance or in a company?
Yeah, most definitely. You have to have discipline because when you're working for a company, for one, you can't get too caught up in your own beliefs and your own wants, because at the end of the day, you're not the boss. So you're still building a brand for another company. And the best thing you can do is bring your own values to that, but stay within the guidelines of that company
Yeah.
to help it succeed.
Yeah, that's a really important point you touch, because sometimes we feel like our values are sometimes not aligned with that of the company. But it's so important that everybody has to always look back and think about principles, because I believe principles at the end of the day are the ultimate, because you values without character is useless.
Right.
And character is something which I believe is everybody has to uphold or hold onto, because character for me is like statue, just like the Statue of Liberty, is that which is unchanging. And when you see some people nowadays, they're going to say something, promise something else, and do something else, and you don't really know who you're talking to. So in order for you to add value, you have to have a solid character. I mean, if I'm talking with you, I know who I'm talking to.
Right.
Not like, oh, today you're gonna be John, tomorrow you're Mary, tomorrow you're Joseph or something
right,
like that.
right.
Like we gotta try to find a balance in like, hey, here is who I am, and this is what I represent. And that way, I believe like you can add value to another person if the person knows that genuinely this is what they're coming after, and you are that person. You're not faking it or trying to be this or that and blah blah blah. Moving on, like in a relationship.
So, question though,
Yep.
do you think your own personal value, like as an individual, gets lost in translation when you're trying to build on the value or so-called value of a large-scale company?
I'm gonna say it depends.
Okay.
It depends, because before I want to step back and say this, before you go into a company, normally you got to think about the values of the company. You got to like do your research and do your homework and think, oh, is this company in alignment with the vision that I have? Is this company value wise and in alignment with my own personal value? So if I'm coming to this company, how am I going to contribute in a positive way in order to get a company to another standard? Because I believe anyone coming into a company, no matter your position, you always got to think about how are you going to make that place better than you made it.
Right.
So I believe you have to do your homework and do your research before like getting to a company. And once you get there, you got to think about how to get the company to another level. You got to increase the worth of that place. And ultimately, increasing the worth of a place, you got to think about how are you going to work with people in a sustainable manner. Because working with people is a real thing. You got to understand everybody has different values. And you just don't have to impose your values on other people. It's all about influence. So if I have a value that I think is so important that people can learn from, I got to try to like, hey, bring it as a suggestion to the people I really love or care about and the people I'm working with. If they see that it's something that, oh, what he's saying makes sense, and then they're going to try to like think about following what I've been doing. But if they think, oh no, that's not what I always do, or I have my own way of doing things, and then definitely they're not even going to think about it.
Like they're set in their ways or something. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So ultimately, I think you have to do your homework and research before like going to a company. You don't just go and then find yourself in some way like, oh my God, what did I get myself into?
But do you think a lot of people, just in general, like you said, do your homework, do your research, but do you think in general that a lot of people, maybe because of what the company is offering, let's say money-wise, sometimes go, okay, I'll put my values to side to...
Yeah, you 100% right, because sometimes people go into, let's just say a career that, for example, I'm going to step back and say this. Most people go to school and study something which they're not going to really follow or pursue once they graduate from school. That's one thing. So when they're done with school and they go to it, let's just say they're just checking out, because you know when you get out of school and you want to get a job, most companies are going to put like the experiences off the chat. Like,
Right,
oh,
right.
you have to have like 5 years of experience. You got to do this, that. Obviously, you just got out of college and you don't have that. So when you get out of college, sometimes people are just thinking, oh, the first come, first serve.
Right,
First
right.
come, first serve. And if you're lucky to be at the top of whatsoever field you were in, or whatsoever department or anything in your school, and you're opportune to like go and do an internship in a company, and they're like, oh, this guy or this lady is really good, and we're just gonna give him a good offer, a permanent offer to work for us. Good for you. But some people, they're just gonna be walking around just finding the first come, first serve. So sometimes you can't really blame that person for taking the money instead of like adhering to the values. I understand.
Right.
Because you as an individual, you gotta understand that you can't do anything without money. Money is important at some point in your life. But in the long run, you gotta start thinking, is this where I wanna be?
Right.
So it's okay to take a decision like how short term, but in the long term, you got to have some plans in place. Like, hey, this is where I want to move. This is where I want to move to in the next that. Yeah, that's what I think.
So just piggybacking off of what you just said, do you think, like you said, people go to college, like you said, and they go to school for, let's just say, engineering. And then, like you said, this big company comes along and goes, hey, you don't have any experience. Here's $70K. You never got a real check before. So $70K is like, oh my God, you know? And let's say that company provides ways to elevate and move up, even though that has nothing to do with your true passion. Do you think a lot of people will get like forever sidetracked and completely forget what they really want to do because that company just keeps throwing money at them? Like, do you think that happens more often than...
I'm gonna say it happens more often, but as an you have to take a decision as an individual. You know, I don't want to give anyone any advice, but my own personal opinion is you always have to think about the long-term view. And in that situation, if I was the person, if I were the one in that situation, I'm going to think about like, where do I want to be in the next 10 years? That's what I'm going to put. That's what I'm going to put in the back of my mind. And another thing I'm going to ask myself is, am I willing to just sacrifice like 10 years to be in this company and earn as much as I can earn and save up to go pursue my ultimate dream or ultimate whatsoever I have at the time, the passion or anything. So I might take it, but at the same time, I'm thinking about, hey, what's the long-term view? So how can I get to where I want to go to ultimately? And just staying in the company, if they're giving me more money, why not? Just take it. I'm like, hey, I'm just going to treat it as I'm just sacrificing maybe 5 years of my life to get some savings out. And when I save up, take the money and then move on.
Do what you want to do.
Yes, do what I want to do. Because this thing is, most people just focus on only the money, and they don't really feel happy or feel fulfilled.
Right.
Like I said on the last episode, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. If you're earning, let's just say, $2 billion and you're not happy, there's a problem. Because at the same time, there have to be a balance. Sometimes when I see somebody, I'm like, this person is in this position, but the person looks so depressed. Is it worth it? Do I want do I want to do my best to get to this position? And I'm like, this ain't it.
Nah, this ain't it.
This is not it.
This is not it.
So I always try to step back and think about, where do I want to go in the next 10 years? And is it going to be a great thing for me to stay in the position where I am at the present time, or do I want to just like go to another place and then figure things out? Because you can't really blame people, because most people don't really know what their passions are.
Or their own value.
They don't really know what their passions are or what they really value. So they just get into anything and they're like, I'm going to figure this thing out. So it's more important to step back and study yourself. Try to read, understand some certain things about yourself. Like, take a walk, have a quiet time, because most people are just like in just trying to be together with people. At the end of the day, how many minutes do you spend with yourself?
Right.
People don't really spend time with themselves, and it's really important. You have to spend time with yourself. Just lay back. Don't talk to anybody.
No social media.
No social media.
Nothing.
Put your phone aside and think. And like, hey, who am I?
Yeah. Self-reflection.
Yes. What do I want to do with my life?
Yeah. Self-reflection. Yeah.
How do I want to? Where do I see myself in the next? I don't know, 5 years, 2 years, 10 years down the line or stuff like that.
And I think that's the hardest thing for anyone to do is like you said, to really take that time to yourself. Like you might have a thought, but then you get distracted and start doing your usual whatever. But to actually sit back and really, and it's not just something you can do like for an hour, like you said, like this is something you have to consistently do.
Yep.
Like day to day, week to week, and really be like, man, like who am I, right?
Yeah.
And then even when you self-reflect and you have to be honest with yourself too, right? Because no one lies to a person more than you lie to yourself.
For real.
To like try to convince yourself like, no, it's going to be okay. Or I got time to, and like that's the biggest, misconception, biggest lie we tell ourselves is, oh, we got time.
Yeah, for real.
I got time. And when we don't,
Nah,
we really don't.
No time.
We don't have time. And I think once you do self-reflect, the biggest step is to go, okay, once you're honest with yourself, self-reflection, being 100% honest with yourself, and then action, right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't have any follow through, then it's like, what's the point of even self-reflecting,
Yep.
So.
Yeah, that's right. And sometimes when we don't try to put in time, sometimes we don't put in time for ourselves because we're so busy or we're caught up with the moment. Like we're just like, oh, I got to do this. I got to take care of my kids. I got to pay my bills. I got to work hard. Some people got back to back job. We're not saying take 2 hours for yourself. You might have the time to take 2 hours, but you got to think about how long do you spend on social media?
All day, and you don't even think about it. That's the thing.
Yes,
you
don't
do
think
it.
about
It's a reflex. You just do it.
Yeah, if you can just say, oh, just take a step back and think about how long you spend on social media. Just start tracking. Just start from there.
It's scary.
Yeah, start from there. And like, hey, how long do I spend on social media?
Mm-hmm.
And then once you get the time, I know some people are not going to be like, oh, people are not even going to take the time to even sit down and start thinking about.
So that's a challenge for all of you at home. Yeah.
We want you to take some time, just step back and calculate how much time you spend on social media in a day, in a week, and in a month. And then once you get that time, I want you to start thinking about how you can try to use 1/4. I don't want to say half, just 1/4 of the time for yourself. Just put your phone aside, turn it off or anything, and self-reflect. Who am I? How can I be better? What's my life goal? What's my vision? Where do I see myself in the next 10 years? Am I living my dreams? What are my values? What's life?
And what am I going to do about it?
Yeah, what's success?
What am I going to do about it?
And what are the steps that I need to start taking now?
Yep.
That is going to take me to the future self I desire. Because people are living in the past, basically.
Yeah, or they're living through other people.
Yeah, they're living other people's life. Because most of the time, people value people's opinion. And they don't really think about theirs. Most people are just like living just to please other people.
Right.
They're like, how can I please this person? What does this person think about me? What does he think? What does she think? But they forget to understand that the person you're worrying about, he's not even thinking about you.
Exactly.
And guess what? Do you know what the person's thinking about? The person is thinking about what you are thinking about them.
Yep.
So it's a cycle. And people don't really understand this. They just like, oh, I want to please this person. I want to please that person. Have you ever gone to a shop or any store like grocery store, and you see this colored fruit, this painted fruit that look like you see the painted bananas, painted apples that look like apples, and
Right.
you rush after it and you touch it, you take it up, and you feel it, and you're like, oh no, these are not apples, these are not banana. Have you ever had that
Yeah,
experience?
yeah.
Yeah, and then when you go to the store the next time, do you go back there?
No.
That's why people are avoiding you.
Yeah.
Because when people come to you one time and they're like, oh, this ain't it. This person is not real.
Right.
And they walk away and they're not gonna come back.
Right.
And when they just lingering around like, no, this is not real. So you have to reveal yourself. And guess what? Once you reveal yourself, not everybody is gonna come and be like, oh, this person is good, this person is legit. There are a lot of people who are gonna criticize you. It comes with the territory. You have to understand that. And you have to be okay being criticized.
Yep.
Because that's life. Nobody's perfect. But we have to think about life as life is not being perfect, but it's all about taking steps towards making progress. It's all about progress, not perfection. Because sometimes we put this in our head that, hey, I want to be perfect all the time. I'm not going to do this unless I'm certain that it's going to work. I'm not going to do this unless and I'm guaranteed the result. But life is not like that.
Yeah, there's no success in things being for certain. Anyone that's had major success took a chance on something that was very, I don't know how this is going to go, but I'm going to give it a shot and let's see what happens, you know?
For real.
Right. Because, I mean, if it was so cut and dry, then we would all be successful and, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We would all be on that same level. And you got, like, case in point, let's look at people that are, I hate to use the word abnormally successful, usually start off with no support other than their own, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because whatever idea they have for themselves to be successful, other people naturally are like, nah, that's crazy. That can't, no. And even us as people that stand back, we'll watch it and be like, nah, that's crazy. And then these are the people that 9 times out of 10 are actually successful. And we're like, holy crap, you know, like, damn, they had a crazy idea and it worked. But what we don't dissect from that is like, damn, we all doubted this person, but that person still believed in their vision and made it happen. So
yeah, everything you just said is right. I want to just add something, and what I want to say is this: like, if you just take a look at most of the successful people that have made it in life, they had a vision, and in order for you to have a vision, you got to know who you are, because once you know that, hey, this is who I am, you put yourself immune to manipulation. Because this is another thing. A lot of people are being manipulated by others because they don't know who they are.
Yep.
And successful people know their self-worth. And they don't got to put on jewelries. They don't got to put on expensive Louis Vuitton on or anything to feel valuable. They know themselves. They can put on anything and they know, oh, this is who I am. But we have gotten to the point where we're just caught up with fashion. We just want to put on the latest Nike shoes. We just want to put on the latest Louis Vuitton on, and we don't really know who we are.
Well, yeah, that also cuts back to social media.
Yeah,
like it provides a false sense of what's important.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we look at other people on vacation and enjoying life, and we forget that you 100% have the capability to do that as well. But you're so caught up in this other person, you're like, oh man, that looks awesome, that looks amazing. I wish I could do that. Instead of being like, oh, let me get off my, and go get it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so.
And the thing is, they don't really think about, oh, what's this guy's story? They're just looking at the flash. They're not thinking about, oh, the struggles this guy had to go through in order to get to that level.
Right.
Because, case in point, we're doing the podcast. There's a lot of work that goes behind the scene that the audience don't even understand. And there's a lot of things that you got to think about before you even putting something like this together. And some people are going to see see us, let's just say in the next maybe 2 years or so, and everything is good, perfect. You got like everything worked out or
Right.
figured out. They'll be like, damn, I want to be this guy. But the faith to understand, in order for you to be this guy, you have to go through the process.
Gotta take that journey.
You have to go through the process.
Yeah.
It's not. There's no elevator to go to the top. You got to use the stairs, and people don't want to use the stairs because my feet hurts. They start bringing complaints and complaining after complaints. Like, in order for you to move to the top, that's why sometimes I try to like listen to billionaires or multimillionaires to just try to get their insight. And one thing that most of them always talk about is, in order for you to get to another level, you have to be self-disciplined. You have to be self-disciplined, and you got to have a vision of where you see whatsoever you're doing. If it's a company, you have to see a vision of the company and think about the long-term view. See it like, hey, in the next 10 years, where do we see this company? And then once you see your company in the next 10 years, and then you got to retrace your step and start thinking backward. You reverse it, start thinking backward. They always say, like, when you look at it from that perspective, it makes you motivated to go after that thing. And you're confident, hey, this is where I want to go. And if you have a dream and let's just say you have a dream and you tell your brother or your mom, your dad, your sister, or anybody around you, if you tell them a dream and they believe you the first time you say it, that's really not your dream. When you have
I like that. Yeah,
when you have a revision and you go tell your mom, your sister, or your brother, anybody, and they're like, damn, you can't do that. Nobody in our family has ever done that.
Right.
That's what you got to do. That's your dream.
Right.
But people, when they go and tell their brothers or their sister or their mom or their dad, and the dad says, oh, you can't do that. There's nobody in this family that's ever done something like that. How do you think you're going to pull that off? And they just feel discouraged. Oh, because my mom loves me so much and she said this, I'm not going to try. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
But they don't fail to understand that your mom is not you. If your mom cannot do it, it doesn't mean you cannot do it.
Well, yeah, that just like refers back to, like I said, you have to be your own biggest fan.
Yep.
You got to be your biggest fan. Like, no one's going to be your fan until you're your own biggest fan. You have to be. You have to be your number one cheerleader, your number one supporter, all those things. Because I think we touched on the first episode, like, people, it's not that they're hating on you. It's not that they don't want to see you do good.
Yep.
But like you said, if something's never been done, they simply just can't see it.
Yeah,
because they don't have a real life example of it. So, like, once again, you really have to be your biggest fan, and like you said, self-reflection and just being strong-minded and strong-willed, because, like you said, nothing's impossible.
Yeah, nothing's
impossible.
And that's a mindset you have to have if you want to move forward or like attain a certain level in life. You have to have the mindset of a go-getter. Hey, I'm going to get this, and I believe I'm going to do it. But don't take the negative route. We're not sitting here saying, hey, go do this, say that, blah, 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 anything illegal. Nah. Go the legal route and put in the work. Like, hard work never lies.
Right.
You got to put in the hours. No matter, because there's this saying I remember that says, when you're new, you make up in numbers what you lack in skills. Once you're putting in the hours, eventually you're going to get caught up and you're going to like you're going to get to a certain point where you're like, oh, now I feel it.
Right.
Is this how this thing is? I'm like, dang. Because when you're still looking from outside, you're like, man, I don't know how I'm going to do that thing. I don't know how I'm going to do that thing. I'm just like, it's not for me. I just put it aside and that's not for me. But you got to step forward with faith and like, hey, how can I get to the next level? I believe anything is possible. You got to have that mindset like anything is possible and step forward despite what your parents are saying. And you also got to understand that your parents love you, but you are a human being, just like they are, and you also have your own opinions. So you also have to be like strong with your opinion and be willing to disagree with your parents respectfully. Lay your point respectfully. I'm like, hey, even if they don't see reasons with you at the moment, eventually they're gonna fall along.
Of course.
And you got to believe that too. And like, hey, mommy loves me, daddy loves me, but they don't really understand what I see at the moment. They don't really understand my vision, but I have to step forward with the faith I have in myself. And you got to believe in yourself despite what anybody is saying, because it all boils down to self-worth. How do you value yourself?
Yep.
If you don't value yourself, like no one is going to value you at the end of the day.
Exactly.
So that's what I always do. I always try to value myself. And every time I value myself, like I do right now, I find it so funny when I come across someone who is trying to manipulate me or try to suppress me at a certain point. I'm just like, this guy don't even know who I am. I know myself, and I know myself so well that I cannot give you the power to control me. I'm the only person who can control myself, because we've gotten to a point where people try to bully people in order to get ahead of them. They're like, oh, blah, 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 just saying random stuff, and they don't really understand people. Instead, we got to come together and like help one another succeed. We got to help one another get to the level where they want to get to. Give them friendly advice. Not everybody's going to take it, but at least you're doing something. Start from somewhere. Yeah. Like in order for you to go to a level where you dream of, in order to get to that level, you got to start from somewhere. I heard this called like in the formula of being a billionaire is to help or save 1 billion lives. So you got to start thinking about it from the perspective like, hey, how can I help this person? How can I help this person? Start from your surrounding. You don't got to always go out and start doing something. Just start from your surrounding. Like, hey, this person around me, he needs this. He needs help with this. Like, what can I chip in? You don't got to have money or anything. You can give him some friendly advice. Like, hey, if I were in your shoes, this is what I'm going to do. And like so forth and so on. You have to put yourself in a situation where you are helping one another succeed. You're helping each other succeed. Because if you always want to think about just yourself and you're not thinking about how you're going to improve your community where you're living, it's going to be really, really hard. Really, really hard. So I want to ask you, coming back to you. So last week we were talking about, on the first episode, rather, we were talking about relationship.
Okay.
And I'm not really an expert, but you have
Neither am I.
you have some valuable experience.
Okay.
When it comes to relationship.
Okay.
So let's step back and think about relationship and value.
Okay.
So how do you add value in a relationship when you and your partner or your boyfriend or girlfriend are not in alignment?
So I think with any type of relationship, and especially like for lack of a better word, a romantic relationship, one thing, neither person can be each other's crutch or each other's happiness, right? Like you should come. I mean, it sounds easier. It's easier said than done, but in relationships like that, I think a lot of things fail because you have two people that are missing something, and they're looking for that thing they're missing in the other person. When in reality, in a relationship, each person should be solid. Not saying you don't have faults and doubts and things like that within yourself or each other, but I think it helps if each person is solid, and then you build on, together or with each other, and that's what makes a strong commitment and a strong relationship. But a lot of times, I think, maybe due to past relationships and past situations, when we move to the next person, we seek to find something that we were missing in the last relationship, but when you do that, you never really find like fulfillment or happiness with the next person.
So I want to ask you this: like, do you go into a relationship having like a checklist? Like, hey,
No.
this person must be this. Check, 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 check. Do you have a checklist, or you just like, hey, whatever?
So for me personally, I always keep a mental and emotional record of what I do like and what I don't like. So when I meet someone new, if any of those don't likes pop up, I don't, because a lot of times we ignore it, right? We might go, well, this person has this one thing I really don't like, but they got these other two things that I do like. So we kind of might push that thing we don't like to aside, and you can't. And I always tell my friends, like, at the end of the day, don't settle. And it's not something I'm saying that's like stuck up or saying don't give someone a chance, but don't settle. Because if you know what you want, then don't settle for anything less than what you want. Because if you do settle for less than you want, then you have no right to complain when that person is literally less than what you wanted, right? So once again, that goes back to being honest with yourself. Like, you're responsible for your own happiness. Nobody is responsible for your happiness but yourself.
Do you think you can get someone, like you said, oh, if the person have two of the things you really care about and don't have one, do you think the person can get better in the future, or you just like, oh, now this person can get it?
I think you shouldn't. Me personally, I never have expectations of people. And I think that's where people fail at. Because let's say you meet this woman and she has this one thing about her that you don't like.
Yep.
But in your head, you're like, maybe it'll get better, right? That's what we tell ourselves. Maybe it'll get better.
Yep.
Maybe we'll get better. But then it doesn't, and then you get mad at the person. But at the end of the day, you're at fault because this person showed you in the beginning that they had this one thing you don't like. So, like, don't expect them to change. I expect people to be exactly who they are at the end of the day.
So will you tell someone, hey, if you're going into a relationship, just wipe everything you have in your mind about this person. Don't expect anything.
Yeah.
Just think, oh, love the person for who the person
Exactly.
is. Appreciate the person, and then everything is going to be better as time goes on.
Yeah,
Is that what you're going to say?
And I'm not going to say it's going to be better, but don't have expectations. Like, expect someone to, like, people, one of my favorite quotes is, if you look at someone long enough, you'll see exactly who they are. Right? So if a person shows you who they are, why would you expect them to be anything different? Right? But that's what we do, right? You hear people all the time, whether it's one of your homeboys, man, she getting on my nerves, but I love her though. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. But is it? Like,
speaking of that, do you think people always, like, when they're dating, they bring their best self?
In the beginning?
In the beginning.
Of course.
They bring the best self. So now,
it's like a job interview.
Yeah, I want to ask you. So how are you going to know the right person, or if this person is in alignment with your values, if the person is like faking it or just bringing you the best self?
But once again, it's like I said, if you look at somebody long enough, you'll see exactly who they are.
But how long do you have to make the decision, though?
No, that depends on the person. Some people are just hard-headed, right? We all know somebody that's like, you give them all the advice in the world, and not only do you give them the advice, they agree with you to your face. Yep, you right. And then 2 weeks later, they calling you, man, I don't know what happened, blah, 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 blah.
You right.
It's like, bruh, so it's all on the person. But like I said, as an adult, I've learned not to have expectations of anyone. The only person in my life that I have expectations of is my daughter.
Your daughter?
Is my daughter. And the only thing I expect of her is to be a good person. That's all I want for her, is to be a decent human being. That's it. That's it. But if you're an adult, I don't have any expectations for you.
So I want to, like, roll back. Let's assume, right, you meet somebody today. And
somebody.
Yeah, if you meet someone today, and let's just assume you like the person, and you have your values, like you said, but you don't really know if this person is in alignment with all those values, how long is it going to take for you personally to figure things out and make the decision that, hey, this is the person I want to go out with. This is my soulmate. So how long is it going to take you to make that decision?
Man, I don't think you can put a time limit on it.
But are you going to make that person, let's say, your girlfriend?
If my feelings and thoughts toward the person are more positive than negative, then yeah, there's a good chance that I would.
So I just want to roll back. I want to roll back the tape. Let's
Okay.
roll it back, based on your experience.
Okay.
How long did it take you to say, "Hey, I want this person to be my girlfriend"?
Maybe a matter of weeks.
Weeks?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I always tell people, when you can't see yourself without the person, or the thought of not having that person is like, like you don't like, you know what I mean? I think that's like a clear sign of something
But
special.
don't you think sometimes we have like, we're living in this illusion, like, hey, this person is the ultimate.
Oh yeah, you always start off high and heavy, man.
That's what I'm saying. But sometimes it might not be real.
Yeah, but
And after a while, you're like, damn, what did I get myself into?
you gotta take a chance though, right? You gotta take a chance. It's just like what we were saying with value and all that stuff. Like, if you're not gonna take a chance, nobody else is gonna take a chance. You gotta take a chance. Or you can stay in your box and just be alone. And when I say alone, I don't mean just in relationships. I mean just in general, right? You have to take a chance.
So what if someone is watching now? I'm like, hey, Dwayne, I get what you're saying, but I think, I'm not saying myself, I'm saying if someone is watching. So if someone's watching now, I'm like, hey, Dwayne, what you're saying, I get what you're saying, but I think in order for you to get into any meaningful relationship, you always got to be patient. Patient. Before you make any decision, be patient. And take some time to really understand the person.
But nobody does that.
Do not rush into anything that you go.
But nobody does that.
You can't say not anybody does it, because you don't really know. Some people might do it, but
then that goes to what you're saying though. You got to be true with yourself. If that's what you believe, forget what I'm saying. If you have your own, if you're watching at home and you have your own set of beliefs and what you believe you should do before you be with someone, then by 100% do that. Like, you know what I mean? What I'm saying is just one perspective.
Yep.
Just one perspective.
So you don't want anybody to follow that.
Right. Unless you 100% believe in what I'm saying, because that's like,
do you believe in what you're saying?
Yeah. 100%. 100%. 100%. Like, don't get me wrong, heartache sucks. It sucks, right? But I'm happy to know that I know what it feels like. Because there's some people that will never know what that feels like. They'll never know what it's like to love someone.
Yep.
They'll never know what it's like to be loved. And the fact that I can feel heartache means that at some point I love someone and they love me back. There are people that will never know what that feels like. And that sucks.
So would you want someone to go into the relationship just to feel how it is to get your heart broken?
No, of course not. That's evil as hell. But you get what I'm saying? Like, if you're with a woman and she breaks your heart, right? That sucks, right? But once you get past all that, you go, damn, I actually got to love somebody though. Like think about all the, like, a case in point, not to get too serious, right? And go too left with this, but let's think about all the stuff that's going on with Israel and stuff like that, right? These are children, right? There's children that haven't done anything to nobody, nothing, right?
Yep.
Like, there's no sense of love or value for them because look what's happening, right? So if me getting my heart ache, if me getting my heart broken or whatever the case may be, that is a small, I will bounce back. You know what I mean? Like, so it's beauty in that, man. It's just like anything. Like what do you define as failure, right? Like, a failure is just a delayed win, whether it's in business, whether it's in relationships, whatever. As long as we learn from those failures, then you're going to turn it into a win. You know, and you got to have that mentality. I want to be knocked down. I want to be knocked down so I can get back up. You know what I mean? Like, because if you spend your whole life just nothing happening to you, nothing throwing you off your path, when you finally do get knocked down, you're not going to get back up. You're not. And we see this, people that win. And then when they finally lose, they have no idea how to deal with it. They're like, oh no, what am I doing? You know what I mean? So it's like, I'll gladly take an L any day of the week, because for every L, I'm going to get 2 wins. So, you know what I mean? You feel me?
Yeah, you just touched something which I consider really important, and that is failure. It's just a delayed win.
Yeah.
That's perfect. That's a really, really good quote. Because sometimes when we fail, not just in the relationship, but in other areas of our lives, when we fail in something, sometimes we're like, oh, damn, I can't do this thing anymore because I'm not good at it. Or I don't know what it takes to get to this another level in this thing. I just give up.
Right.
But people most of the times fail to understand that it takes time. It takes time. And you got to be willing to put in the effort, put in the work, and be willing to fail. Mm-hmm. For me, I think failure is almost the same as what you just said now. I think failure is just a temporal defeat. Basically the same thing.
That's it. It's only for the moment.
It's just a temporary defeat. And you got to think about the long-term view. Going back to what I said earlier, you always got to think about the long-term view. And once someone knocks you down, you got to look back up because you're ready for a comeback. Mm-hmm. And you also got to see it as a challenge. Don't see it as failure, but see it as a challenge. If someone knocks you, you got to be like, hey, this person challenged me, or this thing challenged me, and I'm going to come back better and stronger.
Yep.
That got to be your mindset. Like, I want to come back better and stronger. Because sometimes we just get caught up like, hey, man, this thing is not for me. I just don't know, bro. I've tried these things several times, but I can't get it. And people go as far as telling you, hey, I did everything I could to do this thing.
Yeah, right. No, you didn't.
And I didn't get it. So I don't think it's possible. Just imagine if you did everything you could, how are you not going to get that thing?
Right.
Everything, it means your good is not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
You have to keep on striving towards becoming better, and ultimately you're going to get whatsoever you want. And failure should just be, it's just temporal, and I want to get past this failure. Like Michael Jordan, I'm going to take him as a good example.
That's a good example.
Yeah. He said this. He said, I miss over 9,000 shots. 9,000 shots.
That's crazy.
If Michael Jordan can miss over 9,000 shots, and he's considered one of the greatest basketball players of all time.
I got to correct you there. He is the greatest. I don't care who says anything else.
Arguably. I don't want to get into the debate.
It's not even arguably.
Some people think LeBron is better.
Once again, it's not even arguably. He is the greatest of all time.
According to Dwayne. Okay.
He didn't go on 10 different teams. He stayed with one team. But anyway, back to what you were saying.
Yeah, so Michael Jordan is arguably.
Nope, I don't like that arguably part. No, it's no.
The greatest basketball player of all time. And he said, but for me though, I did not watch Michael Jordan.
Right.
So I don't really know a lot about him, but
I'll send you some tapes so you can get rid of that arguably part.
Yeah. But he says he missed over 9,000 shots. If Michael Jordan can miss over 9,000 shots and is considered the greatest basketball player of all time, and then who are you?
Right.
Who are you?
Right.
You have to take courage, take responsibility, and take the leap of faith and believe in yourself that, hey, I can do this. Mm-hmm. I can go to another level. I can step forward. And even though I fail, I want to get to success. Because Michael Jordan missed the 9,000 shot. You don't hear about the 9,000 shot.
Nah, man.
You just hear about the successes.
You hear about them 6 wins.
Yeah, about the 6 wins.
And that's another thing. Like, surround yourself around other people that are successful.
Who are winning,
Yeah, that are winning, right? Because it's like a contagious feeling, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, if you're sad and you surround yourself around miserable people,
you're gonna be
miserable.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to be something, surround yourself with other people that are like-minded and that
Yeah.
are trying to be something, that,
Yeah.
or that want to be something.
Yeah.
And you'll feed off of each other's energy.
Yeah, that's 100%, zillion percent right.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people just want to be the smartest person in the room.
Yeah. No.
And if you want to always be the smartest person in the room, please, I'm sorry to tell you this, you're in the wrong room. You are in the wrong room. You got to find another room.
Yeah.
Because people just like, oh, I want everybody asking me the question. I don't feel comfortable just sitting there and everyone is asking them the question. But it's fair to understand that you're not learning anything. You're putting it out, but you're not getting anything in.
Right.
For me, I always prefer to be in a room where I'm the dumbest. I want to be the dumbest in the room, where I get to learn from other people. I'm taking it. I'm like,
Because
hey,
nothing but knowledge to gain.
because I'm someone who is so curious. I'm a curious guy. I always want to ask questions. I want to know. I want to know things. I want to understand things. I want to understand people. I want to understand why they take certain decisions, why they act the way they act. And yeah, I'm just curious. So if I'm in the room where I'm the smartest person in the room, obviously I can't get to learn some certain things. But if I go to another room where everyone is challenging me, like I love the challenge.
You're going to gain knowledge.
Yeah, because challenges make you alive, feel alive. If you're living a life with no challenges, you're not living, man. You're just existing. You got to come to a place where you see yourself being challenged every single day. That's what living is like. And once someone challenges you every single day, you start asking yourself like, hey, I don't have to be the dumbest person in this room. How do I get to be the smartest person in this room? The moment you start thinking about that, you're already in another you're already in another dimension, because now you're gonna start thinking about what does it take to get to the level where this person is at, and what do I need to do to get to that level? Is it books I got to read? Is it seminars I got to attend? Is it audiobooks? Is it listen to a podcast like this to improve myself? Like, what do I need to do to get to another level? You got to sit down and invest in your self-development, self-improvement. Because at the end of the day, that's what really matters. I want to say this, and I want to say this clear. People, most of the times, always think about, hey, I got a master's degree in this. I got a PhD in physics. But I want to tell you that if you have a PhD in physics and you don't improve yourself personally, that's nothing. As big as having a PhD in physics is, if you don't know who you are, that's nothing. Because if you see most of the people who have PhDs, where are they? They're in the classroom.
Right.
And if they're teaching you this thing, some people got like PhD in business and stuff like that, and then in the classroom teaching about business. Why are they not billionaires?
Why are they not? Yeah,
why are they not billionaires?
Themselves,
If they figured it out, why are they not billionaires themselves?
Yeah.
So you have to. I'm not saying being a teacher or being a professor is a bad thing. I'm just saying like you got to step back and study yourself to improve yourself, because people get caught up in a situation where they just feel like, oh, getting certificated is the ultimate.
It's the thing to do. Yeah.
Being certificated is not being educated. People keep on getting confused with that. Being certificated is not being educated. You're just certificated or certified to have a job, and it's something like, oh, you studied this, and then, oh, you can get a job in this area, blah, blah, blah. But you're not really educated, because you see some people cram their way through school. They just go cram, they're done. And just when someone just graduate from school, ask the person what they studied. Most of them don't even know 20% of what they studied.
Right.
But they just had a degree. So I'm just saying that once you graduate from school, people think like the moment you graduate, oh, my education is over. I don't got to this thing, learn or anything, study, read, improve myself. But that's really wrong. The moment you graduate, that's when your education starts. That's why on your graduation day, they always call that commencement. The commencement ceremony, and they give a commencement speech What is that telling you? You're just starting. That's the start of life. That's the start of a new beginning. You've been in school, your parents were taking care of you and everything. But now you gotta start figuring things out by yourself. And you gotta think about how can I be a better being for society? Because at the end of the day, you have to be a better being in order to improve not just your community, but society as a whole. But you have to start from your community, start from yourself. Because if you're not better and you don't have some values that you hold like so dear to your heart or uphold that no negative influence can bring it down. Sometimes you're just like, you don't really care about anything because you don't really know what it is to have adhere to principles. At the end of the day, principles are what makes you, makes you unique, makes you stand out. People don't really care about having principles these days. They don't really care about like investing in principles because principles are the real truth that can be they are unchanged. Those are unchanging truth. It's not fact. Fact are just the present description of things. Facts do change. It's a fact that I go to work. It's a fact that I work, let's just say in Baltimore.
Right.
It might change. I might start working in Colombia. I might start working in DC. It might change. So people get just focused on fact a lot, and they forget that principles are the ultimate. You have to start thinking about what is the principle thing, not what is fact, because facts are just changing every single day. The market is going to change. The way someone acts towards you is going to change tomorrow. You don't know what they're going to say tomorrow. You can't predict that. But the only thing you can predict is how you're going to react. Do not give anybody value over you. Mm-hmm. Try to be the boss of yourself. Like, know your worth. And how do you know your worth? Is by stepping back, like we said earlier on, to study yourself, self-reflection. That is the ultimate.
With action.
With action.
With action.
And we want to urge you, please, take some time for yourself. Even if it's 10 minutes a day, it's really important. Just in a quiet room or take a walk by yourself.
Yep.
Just walk.
Something uninterrupted.
Yes.
No interruptions.
And start thinking. Start having some self-reflection. Like, hey,
who am I?
Who am I? Just
who am I?
Just think about it. We're not saying do this and we're not gonna do it. Like, I do it almost every day.
Yeah.
I self-reflect.
Same.
Like, I always think about myself and think about my goals, my objectives.
So when do you do this? Like, what's so some people might get an idea. Like, what's your special place to do this?
My special place is at home.
Okay.
Doing it. But most of the time, I prefer like taking a walk. Like when I'm walking and I just put my noise cancellation headphone on and just block out the noise and then just take a walk and start thinking.
Yeah, like, for me, it's driving.
Yeah, thinking.
Driving. Yeah.
I mean, when I'm driving, I'm on autopilot.
Yeah, when I'm driving, like, if I'm driving in silence, then that's what I'm doing. I'm deep in thought.
Yeah.
I'm deep in thought.
Yeah, because when I'm taking a walk, I'm just like reflecting, thinking, how can I be better? Where do I see myself in the next 10 years? Who is Benrolins today? And how is this version of Benrolins going to be better tomorrow? So it's a process, and it's not going to be automatic. You got to take time and believe that you can do it in the first place. Like, you're not going to do it. You got to believe that, hey, I can do this thing. And you put yourself in the position of doing it, because it's self-discipline. You got to discipline yourself to take action.
Yeah.
Because action is the ultimate, because people don't want to take action.
No. They like the idea.
They just want answers.
Yeah, they like the idea.
Sometimes people are going to come to you and like, hey, I have a problem. And you're like, oh, let me just tackle this problem. Let me just give you an advice on how to do this stuff. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, that's true. That's a good advice. And then they go and start complaining again, complain to the next person. They don't take action. Most of the times, people just want to talk about the problem and they feel good talking about the problem.
I call that a professional victim.
Yeah.
Some people are skilled at being a professional victim.
Yeah,
you know.
they talk about the problem and they keep on talking about the problem. But at what point do you say, hey, enough is enough? I'm going to start taking action. I got to bet on myself. And I believe that I can do this thing. I believe that I can take myself to another dimension. You have to invest in yourself. We've said this today a couple of times, and we urge you, and we're pleading with you watching right now. Please take action. Believe in yourself. Take some time to reflect.
Be your biggest fan.
Be your biggest fan, and be happy to have people criticize you. I know sometimes it may take a toll on you. It may be difficult. It may be tough, but it's worth it. Like, being your biggest fan is the most important thing you can ever do for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And believing you can do things that people don't believe you can do is even sweet when you succeed.
That's how you know you're onto something.
Yeah, the moment you succeed, those people who don't believe in you right now, they're going to come back and like, hey, this guy's up to something. He's up to something. I think I want to be want to be a partner of this person. So just believe in yourself. Anybody who don't believe in you right now is going to tag along. Trust us.
Yep.
And we believe that together we can do something great. We just want you to keep on tuning in every single Tuesday. We're going to try our best to do this every single Tuesday.
We got y'all. Yeah.
Every single Tuesday, just tune in and listen. If you're listening to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or whatever podcast streaming platform you use, or you're watching us on YouTube, we just want you to keep on tuning in to get inspired, to learn from our experiences, and to gain some knowledge, because obviously we're going to be doing some research and trying to make sure we're adding value to you. Not just adding value to ourselves, but making sure when you tune in is worth your time. And we just want to keep on appreciating you. And one thing, if you're watching today's episode, if you're watching this episode on YouTube, make sure you like
and subscribe.
And another thing, share.
Definitely share.
Make sure you
share.
Share and share to everybody that you know and you love and want to succeed. Don't be selfish, please. Do not be selfish. Make sure everybody gets this. This is great. So, Dwayne, we're wrapping up now. If there's one thing you want to tell somebody who is really struggling right now in their relationship, I'm like, hey, I've heard this value thing. You guys have sat down, talk about value, just giving your perspective on this value stuff. But I don't really know how to add value. I don't know how to add value. I don't really understand how to add what on something. Talk less of my relationship. When I started my relationship, my girlfriend and I, or my boyfriend and I, we were really close. We understood each other back then. But today, it's kind of, I don't really know if I want to be with this person. So what advice are you going to give the person watching now or listening to this podcast episode?
Exactly what I said earlier. You are responsible for your happiness.
Yep.
That person that you're in a relationship with is not responsible for your happiness. Yes, you guys are together. Yes, you're in a relationship, but she or he is not responsible for your happiness. You should be an extension of each other's happiness. The moment you're dependent on that person to fulfill something within you that you don't have, you're going to lose. You're going to fail. Speaking from personal experience, 40 years on this earth and I'm still learning. That's the other thing. And just outside of relationships, never stop learning. And not just like in business and success and things like that, but anything you want to do, relationships with your friends, relationships with your significant other, relationships with your parents, relationships in business, never stop learning. Never stop learning.
Yep.
Because there's something to learn each and every day. And to piggyback off of what Ben was saying earlier, as far as believing in yourself. I can't remember who said this quote, but it's one of my favorite quotes, and it's success leaves a trail and everybody wants to follow.
Yep.
So be the best you, be the best leader you can be for you. And if you're the best leader for yourself, you will ultimately be the best leader for others. So, yeah.
Yeah. Just drawing back from what you said, success leaves clues. And that's so true. I want to thank you for this saying, because sometimes we just like, oh, like even if I'm successful today, what am I going to do with it? Some people just think like, hey, money is not everything,
It's not. It's not.
but they don't know where to shop.
Facts.
Yeah. They don't know where to shop. I remember Zig Ziglar said, he said, money is not everything, but it's right up there with oxygen.
Facts. Facts. Yeah.
You need money to do anything you want to do. So, but you have to also understand that you can go to a place where there's, let's just assume you want to be a painter and you think there's no money in painting. But you just doing the painting, you can come with a different style, a different like idea that makes it so unique that everybody wants your painting. So you have to believe, and it's still going to boil down to everything we've said today. Like it falls on you believe in yourself. At the end of the day, be your biggest fan. If you forgot about everything we said in today's episode, the only thing we want you to remember, if you've forgotten everything, which is so important, is believe in yourself and be your biggest fan. Because at the end of the day, that's what really matters. It doesn't matter what A says or B says or D says, or whether they support you or they don't support you. It's all falls or boils down to who you believe you are. Because your self-worth is the ultimate. And success is always going to follow anybody who believes that he or she deserves it. Because sometimes we don't think we deserve to be in some certain situation.
Right.
Yeah, we believe, oh no, that's not for me. I was not born in this family. And in our family, we do things a certain way. We don't go to this kind of places. We cannot afford that. And people don't dream. That's the problem.
Right. They don't.
They don't really dream. So we're begging you and pleading with you, dream. And the only way we're going to be happy is if you watching or listening to this podcast get better in whatsoever area or walk of life you are in right now. We want you to be the better version of yourself. We want you to be your best self, and we want nothing but the best for you. And that's why we started this podcast, because we want to add value to our community, to our society, and our generation. The last question for you and wrap up. So, if there was one advice that you're going to give to your 20-year-old self, what would that be?
You can do it.
You can do it.
No matter what doubt or fear, you can do it. You can do it.
Yeah. So if you're 20 years old or older than that or younger than that, you can do it. That's a good and valuable insight from Dwayne. And I just want to wrap it up right now. I want to thank you guys for tuning in, and we appreciate you. We really thank you for doing everything you do. For those watching on YouTube, for those listening on Spotify, for those listening on Amazon Music and Apple Music, we just want to encourage and urge you to keep on tuning in every Tuesday and listening to Benrolins Blueprint, and start creating the blueprint for success for your life. We believe it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a journey, but we want you to bear with us. Be patient, and we're going to give you the best you can ever dream of. It's going to be better. Every single episode, we're going to try to improve in some area just to make sure that you're gaining something from our conversation And just tune in next Tuesday and get more of Benrolins Blueprint. Thank you. But make sure you subscribe if you're watching today. If you're watching today's episode on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, like, and share. Share, please. Do not be selfish. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon Music, make sure you share the show, share the podcast with your loved ones.
And also, real quick, if you guys are watching on YouTube, by all means, please leave comments and feedback. And if there's any topics and things you would like to see us tackle, please leave that in the comment section.
That's right. If you want us to talk about any topic that is going to be of great interest for you, just leave it in the comment section. Yeah, and we're going to like tackle that for you. Thank you very much for tuning in onto this episode. It was a great one.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Benrolins Blueprint comes to an end.
See you next time.
See you next time. Bye-bye.